Oak Street is an American science fiction film written, produced, and directed by David Robert Mitchell. The film is distributed worldwide by Warner Bros. Pictures and plays only in theaters and IMAX in North America. The film stars Anne Hathaway, Ewan McGregor, Maisie Stella, and Christian Convery. It follows a family who starts to notice unusual happenings in their neighborhood. Now, before we go further, we need to understand who David Robert Mitchell is, because this director is not a household name the way some big studio directors are. He is a very specific kind of filmmaker. He is the kind of filmmaker who does things slowly, carefully, and deliberately. He does not rush, he builds. David Robert Mitchell is known for his distinctive filmmaking style, which sets him apart from many contemporary directors. His work often focuses on atmosphere, subtle tension, and emotional depth. He avoids conventional storytelling techniques and instead creates immersive cinematic experiences. You might know Mitchell from a movie called It Follows. That film came out in 2014 and it became a modern horror classic. It was about a supernatural entity that followed a teenage girl after a sexual encounter. But the real genius of It Follows was not the monster. It was the way the film made you feel like something was always wrong, always slightly off, always approaching. That dread never left the screen. Mitchell has described his approach as going for an objective camera, with camera movements that seem to suggest movements that never materialize. He was working with some language of horror and taking language from other places, changing the language somewhat. He then received mainstream attention with the horror film It Follows, which had its premiere at the Cannes Film Festival before getting a wide release. He has solo writing and directing credits on each of his films, and when so many of Hollywood's famous directors are known for sticking to certain genres, having this much range while keeping each film personal is a very important skill to have. After It Follows, Mitchell made Under the Silver Lake in 2018. That film was a strange, dreamy, conspiracy-filled noir set in Los Angeles. It confused some people and fascinated others. But it showed that Mitchell was not interested in making the same movie twice. He was always pushing into new territory, new genres, new feelings. And now with the end of Oak Street, he has made perhaps his biggest leap of all. A movie with dinosaurs, a movie with a major studio, a movie with two of the biggest stars in Hollywood. And yet, even with all of that, this still very much feels like a David Robert Mitchell movie. The strangeness is still there, the dread is still there, the focus on family and emotion is still there. Only now it is wrapped inside a summer blockbuster shell. David Robert Mitchell is known for the breakout horror film It Follows, as well as Under the Silver Lake and The Myth of the American Sleepover. Each of those films was very different from each other. But now The End of Oak Street is his most ambitious project by a wide margin. The genre and the premise. Now let us talk about what kind of movie this is. The End of Oak Street is classified as a science fiction survival film, but that label does not fully capture it. It is also a family drama. It is also an adventure movie. It is also a horror film in some ways. It sits in multiple places at once, which makes it hard to put in a single box, and that is very much by design. After a mysterious cosmic event rips Oak Street from suburbia and transports their neighborhood to someplace unknown, the Platt family soon discovers that their very survival depends on them sticking together as they navigate their now unrecognizable surroundings. That is the core premise. A regular suburban neighborhood in the 1980s. A regular American family. And then, one day, everything changes. The street is pulled out of the world they know and dropped somewhere completely different, somewhere that does not follow the rules of the world they grew up in. And that somewhere is filled with dinosaurs. Now when you hear the word dinosaurs in a movie, you might immediately think of Jurassic Park or Jurassic World. You think of action and spectacle and giant creatures running around eating people. But the End of Oak Street is using dinosaurs in a very different way. The dinosaurs here are not just monsters to defeat, they are the new environment, they are the new reality. The family is not in a theme park. They are not fighting to escape a controlled situation. They have been dropped into a world that is ancient, wild, and completely indifferent to their survival. The dinosaurs are just part of that world. They are part of the landscape. They are terrifying not because they are evil but because they are real. And the Platts are very much out of place. The Platt family, Anne Hathaway as Denise, Ewan McGregor as Greg, Maisie Stella as Audrey, and Christian Convery as Brian, awaken to a world that no longer obeys familiar rules. Their street, once a quiet suburban lane, now exists in a landscape that defies geography or logic. The film's premise is rooted in the immediate physicality of this dislocation. Phone signals fade, landmarks vanish, and the horizon offers no recognizable markers. This is a story about a family learning how to survive, not just physically but emotionally. Before the cosmic event, the Platt family had problems like every family does. There were tensions, there were unspoken feelings, there were things not being talked about. And now, suddenly, none of those everyday problems matter. What matters is staying alive. What matters is sticking together. What matters is trust, love, and the belief that your family can get through anything together. That is the real story underneath the science fiction. The dinosaurs are the extreme pressure that forces this family to figure out who they really are and whether they really can rely on each other. Now, let us talk about how this movie got made. Because the production story of The End of Oak Street is almost as interesting as the movie itself. Originally announced to be in development in early 2023, the film was developed by J.J. Abrams' Bad Robot and Jackson Pictures for Warner Bros., casting Anne Hathaway in a lead role that same year. Ewan McGregor joined next in early 2024, replacing Oscar Isaac, who dropped out of negotiations to co-star alongside Hathaway. And in March of the same year, the title was announced, Flowervale Street. So, for a long time, this movie was called Flowervale Street. And the title itself was a mystery. Nobody knew what it was about. Nobody knew the plot. Warner Bros. Kept the whole thing under wraps for months and months. There were no leaks, there were no set photos, there was nothing, just whispers and rumors and curiosity. Oscar Isaac was originally attached to the project. He later dropped out and was replaced by Ewan McGregor. That is a significant detail. Oscar Isaac is a remarkable actor, and it would have been very interesting to see him in this role. But Ewan McGregor brought something different to the table. McGregor has a warmth and a groundedness that is perfect for a suburban father trying to hold his family together in the middle of something impossible. He can be charming and funny and then vulnerable and scared, all within the same scene. He was the right choice. In March 2023, an untitled film directed, written, and co-produced by David Robert Mitchell was in development, with J.J. Abrams producing. The producers include J.J. Abrams, Hannah Minghella, David Robert Mitchell, Matt Jackson, and Tommy Harper. The cinematography is by Michael Joulakis. The film was edited by John Axelrad and the music is composed by Michael Giacchino. That is a remarkable group of people to have on one movie. Let us go through them quickly. J.J. Abrams is one of the most commercially successful producers and directors in Hollywood right now. He made the rebooted Star Trek films. He made Super 8, which was his own love letter to Steven Spielberg and the suburban family adventure films of the 1980s. He produced Cloverfield. He directed Star Wars, The Force Awakens. He knows how to make big, emotional, crowd-pleasing movies that also have a genuine sense of mystery and wonder. His production company is called Bad Robot, and it has a very specific reputation for big genre films with heart. The End of Oak Street feels like exactly the kind of movie Bad Robot was built to produce. Michael Joulakis is the cinematographer, and this is a beautiful piece of casting in its own way because Joulakis was also the cinematographer on It Follows. He knows how to work with Mitchell. He knows how Mitchell sees the world through a camera. He knows the rhythms Mitchell uses, the slow pans, the wide open frames, the way the camera sometimes just watches and waits. Having Joulakis on board means the visual language of the film is going to be connected to Mitchell's earlier work, even as the story itself is completely different. Michael Giacchino is composing the score, and that is an absolutely massive deal. Academy Award winning composer Michael Giacchino has crafted the sonic landscape for some of the most acclaimed and beloved projects in contemporary cinema. His illustrious film scoring portfolio includes The Incredibles, Coco, Jojo Rabbit, Ratatouille, Star Trek, Jurassic World, Inside Out, Spider-Man, No Way Home, and The Batman. Giacchino has actually scored Jurassic World, which means he has experience writing music for dinosaur movies. He knows how to make prehistoric creatures feel both terrifying and majestic. But in the end of Oak Street, the score needs to do something more than just make dinosaurs scary. It needs to carry the emotional weight of a family under pressure. It needs to have tenderness alongside terror. And Giacchino is perhaps the most gifted living film composer at combining those two things. Giacchino's scores have a natural ebb and flow, almost like the sea. At significant moments of a film, they can be momentous. At other times, they hide in the underflow. That description is perfect for what the end of Oak Street needs from its score. In January of 2026, Warner Bros. Revealed that the title would be changing, ultimately unveiling the new title, The End of Oak Street, with the debut of its first teaser in March of 2026. The change of title is interesting. Flowervale Street sounds quieter, more suburban, more mysterious. The End of Oak Street sounds more final, more dramatic, more urgent. It signals a shift in marketing approach. The studio wanted audiences to know this was not a quiet little mystery film. This was a big event movie. The word end in the title already tells you something is going wrong, something is coming apart, something will never be the same. The End of Oak Street has a PG-13 rating for strong violent content, bloody images, some strong language, and suggestive material, marking a departure from director David Robert Mitchell's previous rated films. That is significant because Mitchell's previous films, It Follows and Under the Silver Lake, were both rated R. They were darker, more adult in content. But The End of Oak Street is clearly aiming for a wider audience. PG-13 means families can go see it, kids can go see it, teenagers can go see it. But the fact that the rating includes strong, violent content and bloody images means Mitchell has not completely softened his approach. This is still a film that takes danger seriously. People are not safe. Things happen that have real weight. The movie's reported runtime is 99 minutes, shorter than many recent dinosaur blockbusters, potentially shaping audience expectations. 99 minutes. That is lean, that is tight. There is no fat in a 99-minute movie. Every scene has to earn its place. Every moment has to push the story forward. That discipline is very much in line with Mitchell's filmmaking style. He doesn't waste time. He trusts the audience to keep up. The filming locations include Atlanta, Georgia. Atlanta has become a major filmmaking hub in recent years, and it has the kind of suburban architecture that is perfect for a story set in the 1980s. Wide streets, green lawns, big houses, neighborhood cul-de-sacs. The world of Oak Street needed to feel like the kind of neighborhood where nothing unusual ever happens. Atlanta gave them exactly that canvas. The movie has generated curiosity for years thanks to its secretive production and unusual premise, with early reports describing it as a family adventure set in the 1980s that involves dinosaurs, while Warner Bros. Has kept many of the story's surprises under wraps. All of its secrets will be revealed in theaters. Let us now walk through the story of the movie. We will go through it act by act, scene by scene in a storytelling way, and we will look at the emotional truth underneath every plot moment. The movie opens on Oak Street. It is the 1980s. You can tell from everything around you. The cars parked in the driveways are from that era. Big, boxy American cars with chrome bumpers and wide wheels. The houses have that particular 1980s suburban look to them. Brick facades, wooden decks out back, basketball hoops above garages. There are lawnmowers and garden hoses and sprinklers making little rainbows on green grass in the afternoon sun. It is a perfectly ordinary neighborhood. That is the point. The film spends real time in this ordinary world before destroying it. We need to feel what is about to be lost. The Platt family? 4 people living on Oak Street? Greg Platt, played by Ewan McGregor, is the father. He is in his late 30s. He works a regular job. He coaches his son's little league team on weekends. He has a good heart, but he is not always great at showing it. He is the kind of father who shows love through doing things rather than saying things. He fixes the broken fence. He makes breakfast on Saturday mornings. He drives the kids to school without complaint. But sometimes the words do not come easily. Sometimes the emotional conversations are the ones he walks away from. Ewan McGregor plays this beautifully. There is warmth in his eyes at all times, but there is also that particular anxiety of a man who feels responsible for everything and is quietly terrified of failing. Denise Platt, played by Anne Hathaway, is the mother. She is sharp, intelligent, and deeply connected to her children. She is also the emotional center of the family. When things go wrong, she is the one who holds everyone together, but holding everyone together is exhausting, and sometimes she gets tired. Anne Hathaway is extraordinary in this role. She brings a quality to Denise that is both fierce and fragile at the same time. You believe completely that this woman loves her family more than anything. You also believe that she sometimes feels like she is carrying too much alone. Audrey Platt, played by Maisie Stella, is the teenage daughter. She is around 16 years old. She is at that age where she is trying to figure out who she is separate from her parents. She is artistic. She is a little withdrawn. She keeps a journal. She listens to music alone in her room. She loves her family, but she is also embarrassed by them in the way that teenagers sometimes are. Her relationship with her mother is complicated by the usual things. She wants independence. Her mother wants closeness. Those two things keep bumping into each other. But underneath all of that, there is real love between them. And that love will be tested and ultimately proven by everything that is about to happen. Brian Platt, played by Christian Convery, is the younger child, around 10 years old. He is curious and energetic. He is the child who asks questions nobody else thinks to ask. He is not afraid of things the way the adults are. Or rather, he is afraid, but his curiosity is stronger than his fear. This will become one of the most important dynamics in the film. Children sometimes see the world more clearly than adults because they have not yet learned to dismiss what they see. Brian will see things on Oak Street that the adults try to explain away. The neighborhood itself has other people in it. Neighbors who have their own lives and their own stories. There is the couple next door who have been arguing for weeks. There is the old woman down the street who sits on her porch every morning with her coffee and her crossword. There is the divorced man across the street who drinks too much but is genuinely kind to the neighborhood kids. These are not just background characters. They become important when the event happens. Because everyone on Oak Street is in this together. The early portion of the film is quiet, almost deceptively quiet. We spend time with the Platts in their natural habitat. Greg and Denise have a conversation at the dinner table about money that does not quite become an argument but comes close. Audrey sits at the table with her headphones around her neck, present but absent. Brian talks excitedly about something he learned at school that nobody else is listening to because they are too busy managing their own feelings. This is such a universal family scene. Every single person watching this movie has sat at a version of this dinner table. The conversation that is really about something else entirely. The child who is trying to be heard. The parents who love each other but are too tired and stressed to show it in this particular moment. And then there are smaller moments. Greg and Audrey playing a board game while Denise reads on the couch. Brian and Greg throwing a baseball in the backyard in the golden late afternoon light. Denise and Audrey sharing a laugh in the kitchen over something silly, and for just a moment, their complicated mother daughter dynamic dissolves into pure joy. Mitchell gives us all of this. He gives us the ordinary. He gives us the beautiful and the messy and the real. He makes us love these people. He makes us understand them. Because what is about to happen to them will only matter as much as we care about who they are. There are early signs that something is wrong on Oak Street. They are small signs, easy to miss. A strange sound in the middle of the night that Greg hears and dismisses. A bird that flies into the kitchen window and falls dead on the deck, but Denise throws it away and does not mention it again. Brian watching the sky one evening and seeing something that he tries to describe to Audrey, who does not take him seriously. The dog on the street that keeps barking at the same corner of the yard at nothing visible for days in a row. David Robert Mitchell is a master of this kind of dread building. He does not show you the monster right away. He shows you the reactions to the monster. He shows you the small wrong things. The things that make the back of your neck prickle even though you cannot explain why. You know something is coming. You know the quiet is going to break. And the longer the quiet lasts, the more terrifying the breaking will be. Greg begins to notice that the stars look slightly different at night. Not completely different, just slightly off. He does not know enough about astronomy to name what is wrong. But something in his gut tells him it is not right. He stands on the porch one night looking up, and the expression on Ewan McGregor's face is one of the finest pieces of acting in the film. He is trying to convince himself it is nothing. You can see him doing it. You can see him choosing not to be afraid, but the fear is there. It is there in his eyes, even as his mouth stays flat and calm. Denise starts finding things in the yard, little things, broken branches, what looks like very large animal prints in the mud near the fence, but they are too big and too strange to make any sense. She photographs them with the family camera. That detail is perfect for the time period. A disposable camera or a film camera in the 1980s. She will not know what the photographs look like until she develops the film. And by then, everything will have already changed. Brian, being a child, is the most perceptive about what is happening. Children in stories like this are often the ones who see the truth first because they have not learned to rationalize it away. He tells his parents that the yard smells different, like a zoo but bigger, like how a zoo smells but much bigger. His parents smile and tell him he has a good imagination. He is not wrong. The neighborhood dogs are restless every night now. They bark and whine at nothing. The old woman on the porch notices it too and mentions it to Denise over the fence one morning. They both agree it is strange. They both agree it will probably stop soon. It does not stop. And then the night comes. The night of the event. Nobody on Oak Street will ever be able to fully explain what happens on this night, not in scientific terms, not in any terms that make sense. The best they will eventually be able to say is that the world cracked open and something changed. Or perhaps the world stayed the same and they were the ones who were moved. Either way, nothing will ever be the same again. It begins with a sound. A low, deep sound that is felt more than heard, like something very large is moving underground, far below the foundations of every house. The windows vibrate, the dishes rattle in the cabinets, the family is asleep, and the sound wakes all of them at the same moment. Greg is the first one to get out of bed. He goes to the window. Outside, the street looks normal. The street lights are on. The neighbors' houses are dark. But the sky above is wrong. It is not the night sky he knows. The stars are in completely different positions, and there are more of them, far more than should be visible from a suburban neighborhood with all its light pollution. The sky is blazing with stars, more stars than he has ever seen, and none of them are in the right place. He calls for Denise. She comes to the window and stands beside him. They look out at the sky together and neither of them says a word for a long moment, because there are no words for this. There is no category in their brains for what they are seeing. Then the light comes, from everywhere and nowhere at once. A blinding white light that fills the entire street, every window, every crack and corner, a light so total and so complete that it is almost like being inside a star. It lasts for several seconds, maybe more. It is impossible to say. Time feels strange during the light, and then it is gone, and everything outside is different. The streetlights are off, not because of a power outage, but because there are no more streetlights. The posts are still there, the metal poles, but the lights themselves have gone dark or have been removed somehow. The familiar road that runs in front of the houses, that clean suburban asphalt, is still there, but it ends very abruptly about 100 meters from the house. Past that point, there is no road, there is jungle. Dense, impossibly thick, dark green jungle stretching as far as anyone can see, rising up into hills that were not there before. The houses are still standing. The neighborhood is still there. Oak Street itself is physically intact, but the world around it is completely, utterly different. Greg and Denise stand at the front door together, looking out. Brian has come downstairs in his pajamas and he is standing between them, holding his mother's hand. Audrey comes down a moment later and stands at the window, pressing her face against the glass. Nobody speaks. The jungle breathes. Somewhere in the darkness, something very large moves. That sound. The sound of something large moving through vegetation. A slow, heavy, rhythmic movement. The sound of footsteps that are too far apart to belong to anything familiar. Too heavy. Too slow. The sound of an animal that has never heard of human beings. Greg slowly closes the front door. The morning comes. Daylight makes things both better and worse at the same time. Better because the darkness is gone and they can see. Worse because what they can see confirms that this is real. The neighborhood sits in a clearing. All of Oak Street is there. Every house, every lawn, every car in every driveway, every garden hose and bicycle and garden gnome. The pavement of the street is there. The sidewalks are there, but everything beyond the neighborhood edge is gone and replaced. Trees that are hundreds of feet tall surround them on every side. The air smells different, wetter, heavier, richer with oxygen in a way that makes your head feel slightly strange. The sky is a particular shade of blue that nobody can quite put a name to, just slightly brighter, slightly more saturated than the sky they know. The neighbors are all out on their lawns and driveways now. Everyone who lives on Oak Street is experiencing this together. There is shouting, there is crying. There is the kind of confusion that edges toward panic, but has not quite gotten there yet because people are still in the early stage of trying to understand before they let themselves feel. Greg and the man from across the street, played by P.J. Byrne, in a performance that is full of nervous energy and occasional dark humor, try to explore the edge of the neighborhood. They walk to where the road ends and the jungle begins. They stand there looking into the tree line. The vegetation is unlike anything either of them has seen. The plants are enormous. The ferns alone are taller than houses. And the smell coming from the jungle is that smell Brian described, a zoo smell, enormous and ancient. They go back to the neighborhood to report what they saw, which is nothing definitive, just jungle and strange plants. No sign of where they are, no sign of how to get back, no sign of anything that would help. Denise is the most practical person in a crisis. While the other neighbors are arguing about what to do, she is making a list. What do they have? Food in everyone's refrigerators and cupboards. Water from the taps, which are still working somehow, still connected to whatever pipes run beneath the street, gasoline in the cars, tools in garages, first aid supplies. This is her way of dealing with the impossible. She turns it into a logistics problem. She makes it solvable, one small piece at a time. Audrey is sitting on the front step of the house writing furiously in her journal. She is trying to document everything. She does not know why. It feels important. It feels like the only thing she can do. Writing is how she makes sense of her world, and the world just became completely senseless. So she writes more than she has ever written in her life. These journal entries become a kind of voice-over narration at certain points in the film. Maisie Stella gives them such weight. There is a teenager's directness in the observations, that young person's ability to see things without the filters that adults use. Brian, 10 years old and vibrating with curiosity and fear in equal measure, wanders to the edge of the neighbor's property and looks into the jungle. He sees something moving in there. Between the great trunks of the ancient trees, something dark and slow and enormous is moving. He watches it for a full minute. Then he goes and finds his father. "Dad," Brian says, "there is something really big in there." Greg goes to look. By the time they get back to that spot, whatever it was is gone. But the branches at the tree line have been bent and broken by something passing through. The footprints in the wet earth at the jungle floor are enormous. Three-toed, deep, the prints of a creature that weighs more than a truck. Greg looks at these prints for a very long time. He looks at them and then he looks at the jungle and then he looks back at his neighborhood where his wife and daughter and son and all his neighbors are trying to figure out what to do next. And something in his face changes. The last part of him that was hoping this was some kind of mistake, some kind of dream, some kind of thing that would sort itself out, that part closes down. He understands now. They are in a world with dinosaurs. They are in a place where their street, with its ordinary houses and its ordinary lawns and its ordinary families, is a small island surrounded by something prehistoric and vast and incredibly dangerous, and they have to survive it. The community meeting that happens in the middle of the street that afternoon is one of the most interesting scenes in the film. Everybody is there, all the neighbors. And they all have different ideas about what to do, which means they all have different instincts about how to face the impossible. Some people want to stay inside their houses, lock the doors, close the curtains, wait for rescue. Someone has to know we are gone, they say. Someone back home will figure out where we are. They will come for us. Other people want to explore. They want to go into the jungle and find out where they are and how far it extends and whether there is any way back. Waiting is not a plan, they say. Waiting is just hoping. We need to do something. And a few people are already starting to fragment, already starting to think about themselves rather than the group. Already calculating who has more food, who has more resources, whether the community will hold together or whether it will break apart into individual families just trying to make it on their own. This is the film drawing from some very deep wells of human psychology. When a community is placed under extreme stress, these patterns emerge. The ones who trust in rescue, the ones who believe in action, the ones who prioritize self-preservation. None of these positions are wrong exactly. They are just human. They are just how different people respond to the impossible. Greg is in the action camp. He believes they need to understand their situation before anything else. He volunteers to lead an exploration party into the jungle. Denise does not want him to go. They have a real argument about it in front of the neighbors, which is unusual for them because they tend to keep their disagreements private. But this is not a private situation anymore. Everything is shared now. The houses are still separate, but the danger is communal. Denise loses the argument. Greg goes into the jungle with two of the other neighbors. They are gone for several hours. What they find and what they come back to report changes everything. The jungle is real. It is ancient. The plants are species that no longer exist in the world they came from. The trees are species from deep in geological time. And the animals they hear and occasionally see glimpses of are unmistakably, undeniably dinosaurs. Not the movie versions that everybody grew up watching, closer than that, realer than that. One of the neighbors has a camera around his neck and he manages to take a photograph before they run. A photograph of something enormous standing at the top of a ridge line, its silhouette against the bright sky. Something tall enough to see over the tree line. Something that takes up an enormous fraction of the horizon. When Greg shows the neighborhood this photograph, there is silence. The silence of people making the final mental adjustment. The silence of the last denial falling away. They are in a prehistoric world. And the creatures of that world do not know what a neighborhood is. They do not know what people are. And some of them are hungry. The days that follow are a masterclass in sustained tension. And here is where Mitchell's genius as a director really shows itself. Because he knows that the most frightening thing is not the moment of attack. It is the waiting before the attack. It is the knowledge that something is out there and could come at any time. It is the way your ears get sharper and your eyes get wider and every sound becomes a potential threat. The neighborhood builds up perimeter. They take the cars and line them up at the edge of the properties. They find materials in their garages and workshops and they build barriers. This is not a military operation. These are suburban families with garden tools and garage supplies. The fences they build are not really strong enough to stop anything determined, but building them gives people something to do. It gives them a sense of control in a situation where they have almost none. Greg becomes one of the de facto leaders of the community, not because he pushes for the role, but because he is calm when other people are not. He has a steadiness that other people need. Ewan McGregor carries this beautifully. Greg is not a hero in the movie star sense. He is not performing bravery. He is just trying to do the next thing. And sometimes that is what leadership looks like. Not speeches and grand gestures. Just doing the next thing when the next thing needs doing. Denise is the one who keeps track of the resources. The food rationing begins after the first week, when it becomes clear that rescue is not coming soon. She creates a system. She inventories every house. She maps out how long they can last on what they have. The number she arrives at is not comfortable. They need to find additional food sources. They need to find water that does not come from their taps. In case the water pressure eventually fails, they need to find a way to make this work long term. Audrey and Brian are navigating this impossible situation with the tools of childhood and adolescence. Brian approaches it with a kind of practical wonder. He starts drawing the animals he can see from the edge of the neighborhood. He catalogs them like a miniature naturalist. He gives them names. He figures out which ones seem to stay in the deeper jungle and which ones come closer to the neighborhood edge. This information turns out to be useful in ways nobody expected. Audrey is having a harder time. She is old enough to fully understand the danger, and she is young enough that it breaks through her composure in unexpected ways. There is a scene where she is sitting in her room listening to a cassette tape on her Walkman, trying to hold on to the ordinary world through music, and she breaks down crying. Not in front of anyone, just alone in her room with the music. And when the tape ends, she wipes her face and goes back downstairs to help her mother. Maisie Stella plays this scene with a heartbreaking restraint. The grief is enormous, but she holds it, because holding it is what her family needs. There is a night, maybe 2 weeks into their displacement, when the first major threat arrives. Something has been circling the neighborhood for several days, coming closer each night, drawn by the lights that the neighborhood still manages to produce through a combination of car batteries and a few generators that some of the families happen to have. Something large and persistent and not afraid. The first clear look at one of the predators is one of the film's great set pieces. It comes through the perimeter they built with the cars. It pushes through the barrier like it is made of paper, which it essentially is for a creature this size. It moves through the neighborhood and the film follows it from a distance, the camera staying far back, watching its silhouette move between the houses. The children are all inside. The adults are pressed against windows or flat against interior walls. The creature is not hunting them specifically, it is curious. It is investigating this strange smell, this strange cluster of objects, these flashing lights that do not belong to any natural thing it knows. But then it finds the food. Someone has left some garbage bags by their back door, too scared to go out and deal with them. The creature finds the bags and tears them open, and the smell of food is there, human food, something it has never encountered before. And it likes it. This is the moment when everybody on Oak Street understands that they are now permanently on the menu, not as prey in the traditional sense, but as a presence that this world's predators will investigate. They have been noticed. They will be returned to. Greg and a few of the other men try to drive the creature away. They have no weapons that can harm something this size. What they have is noise and fire. They use the car's horns, they use flashlights, they use a propane torch from someone's garage, and it works barely after several terrifying minutes. The creature retreats back into the jungle, but it will be back. Everybody knows it will be back. That night, Greg and Denise lie awake in bed together. The house is dark, the neighborhood is quiet. Outside in the jungle, far away but still audible, something calls into the night. A sound that is both magnificent and terrifying, primal and enormous. Are we going to be okay? Denise asks. Greg does not answer right away. He takes her hand. He holds it very tightly. Yes, he says, and even though neither of them is sure it is true, it is what they need to say. It is what they need to believe. The climax and the resolution. The third act of the film escalates everything. The pressures that have been building, both the external pressure of the dangerous world and the internal pressure of the family's relationship dynamics, all of these things come together in a way that forces the most important moments of the story to happen. A decision is made that the community needs to actively explore beyond the immediate jungle. They need to find out if there is a way out of this place, if there is any path back to the world they came from, if there is any source of food or fresh water or safety beyond the small perimeter of Oak Street. An expedition is organized. Greg volunteers to lead it, and this time Audrey insists on going with him. This is the central argument of the third act. Denise does not want Audrey to go. Audrey is 16 years old. She is her child. The jungle is full of animals that can kill her. The risks are enormous and there is no good reason to put her in that danger. But Audrey argues with a passion and a clarity that surprises everyone, including herself, that she has to go. She has been documenting everything. She has been observing. She understands the patterns of the animals better than most of the adults because she has been paying careful attention while the adults were busy managing logistics and resources. She believes she can contribute to the expedition in a real way. She does not want to stay behind. She does not want to be protected at the expense of being useful. And here is the deeper thing she is really saying, even if she does not fully articulate it. She is saying, I am not a child anymore. This situation has taken that from me. The world has changed and I have changed with it. You have to let me be part of this. Denise hears all of it. And she hates all of it. And she agrees. That moment, Denise telling her daughter to be careful and watching her walk toward the jungle with Greg is one of the most emotionally devastating moments in the film. Anne Hathaway plays it with almost no words. Just the expression on her face, the love and the terror and the pride all at once. Denise stands at the edge of the neighborhood and watches her husband and her daughter disappear into the tree line. And she does not cry, not in front of anyone, but everything she is feeling is visible in every line of her face. The expedition into the jungle takes up the heart of the third act. It is the most action-heavy section of the film. The group, Greg and Audrey, and two of the neighbors moves through the forest and experiences the prehistoric world up close for the first time. What they find is both terrifying and astonishing. The dinosaurs they encounter range from small, bird-like creatures that scurry through the undergrowth to enormous herbivores that move in herds through the distant clearings, to the predators that they hear more than see, great shadows moving through the canopy above them. There is a sequence in the jungle that is the film's most breathtaking visual achievement. The expedition reaches a high ridge and looks out over a vast prehistoric valley, hundreds of animals moving below. Pterosaurs riding the thermals above, a river winding through the valley floor, and at the far end of the valley, something that might be a structure, something angular and geometric that does not belong to the natural world, something that was made. They cannot reach it in the time they have, but they see it, and they note the direction, and they understand that they are not the first beings in this displaced place to have had the idea of building something. They do not know if that means hope or danger. It means something. The expedition turns dangerous on the way back. They come too close to a nesting ground. The animals there are not enormous, but they are fast and they are defensive, and there are dozens of them. The group runs. They separate in the confusion of the forest, and for several terrible minutes, Greg cannot find Audrey. This scene. This scene in the middle of the jungle, where a father cannot find his daughter and the world is full of things that want to eat both of them. It is the most viscerally frightening sequence in the film. Not because of the monsters, although the monsters are frightening, but because of Ewan McGregor calling his daughter's name in the dark forest, because of the raw animal terror in his voice, because of the fact that in this moment, all of the emotional distance that sometimes exists between parents and teenagers, all of the things left unsaid and the conversations avoided, all of that falls completely away, and there is nothing left but love. There is nothing left but the need to find her. He finds her. She is shaken but not hurt. She found a hollow tree and went inside and waited, and the things passed. She is trembling. He grabs her and holds her and does not let go for a long time. She lets him hold her. I was so scared, she says into his shoulder. So was I, he says. So was I. This is the scene that the whole movie has been building toward. Not the dinosaurs, not the cosmic event, not the survival logistics. This, a father and a daughter in the middle of something impossible, finally saying what they actually feel. The wall between them, that ordinary distance that teenagers put between themselves and their parents, has been completely dismantled. Not by the wilderness, by the moment of almost losing each other. They come back to the neighborhood together. The return is marked with relief and some celebration from the neighbors, but more importantly, Audrey runs straight to Denise and they embrace with a ferocity that makes clear exactly how much has been said between them without words. The community now has a plan. The structure they saw in the valley. It could be a way out. It could be a passage back. It could be connected to the cosmic event. It is a risk and it might mean nothing at all. But it is the best thing they have found and it is worth pursuing. But first, the neighborhood has to survive the night. Because something has been watching the expedition return. Something has been following them back from the jungle. Something large and persistent that has now found the neighborhood and decided this time it is not going to be driven away by noise and fire. The final confrontation of the film is not a battle in the traditional action movie sense. It is a defense. It is a community of ordinary people protecting their small piece of civilization in the middle of something ancient and enormous. Every neighbor plays a role. Every car and tool and resource they have accumulated is used. The barriers are rebuilt and reinforced. Lights are arranged. Plans are made. And it works. Not perfectly, not without cost. There is real danger and real loss in this sequence. The filmmakers do not protect everyone, but the community holds together. The threat is driven back. Oak Street survives the night. And then, just as the first light of dawn is turning the prehistoric sky pink and gold, something happens. The same vibration they felt on the night of the event. The same deep felt more than heard sound from underground. The windows rattle, the dishes shake, and the light comes. This time, the light is different. This time, instead of arriving from everywhere, it seems to be coming from the direction of the valley, from the direction of the structure they saw. Like the structure activated somehow, like the building they saw in the valley, the angular geometric thing that should not exist in a prehistoric world is the machine that caused all of this, or the machine that can reverse all of this. The light is blinding and complete and then it is gone. And Oak Street is back. The familiar suburban street is back. The familiar sky with its familiar stars in their familiar positions, the familiar sounds of the city in the distance, traffic, an airplane, the distant sound of ordinary life. The neighborhood is exactly where it was, as if nothing moved, as if nothing happened. But everything happened. The Platts stand on their front lawn in the early morning light, the four of them together. They look at the ordinary world around them and they feel everything at once. Relief and disorientation and grief and joy and something that has no name. They have been somewhere that nobody else in this world has ever been. They have seen things nobody else has seen. They have been tested in ways that most people will never be tested. And they are together. They survived it, all four of them together. Greg and Denise hold each other. Brian looks up at the sky with an expression of wonder and loss. Because yes, he is home, but a part of him will always be in that other place. Audrey opens her journal and begins to write. Because someone needs to remember this. Someone needs to tell this story. And she is the one. Character analysis. Let us now go deeper into the characters and what they really represent in the story. Greg Platt is the archetypal father figure who has to be remade. He begins the film as a good man who has built his life around a certain idea of what it means to be responsible. He provides, he protects, he fixes things, but he has confused providing and protecting with being fully present. He has been so busy being the reliable one that he has not always been the connected one. The cosmic event strips away all the things that his identity was built around. His job is gone. His financial security means nothing here. His role as provider is reduced to its most basic form, finding food and building barriers. And in that reduction, he finds something more important. He finds that the most valuable thing he has is not what he provides but who he is. His steadiness, his calm, his genuine love for his family, these are the things that actually matter. And the jungle is where he finally shows his daughter that he sees her and he loves her, not just as his child to be protected, but as a person. Denise Platt is perhaps the most fully realized character in the film. She is the one who keeps the whole system running, both the family system and the neighborhood community system. She is practical and organized and clear-headed under pressure. But she is also terrified. She is terrified for her children every single moment of this experience. And what is remarkable about Anne Hathaway's performance is that she never lets the terror take over the practicality. Denise has decided that her feelings are less important right now than doing what needs to be done. And that decision, that choice to prioritize function over feeling is both her strength and the thing that cost her. Because her children, particularly Audrey, sometimes need her to be soft rather than strong. The most important thing Denise does in the movie is let Audrey go on the expedition. Because it would have been so easy and so understandable to say no, and she says yes. That yes is the greatest act of love she performs in the entire film. Audrey Platt is the character who changes the most over the course of the story. She begins as a teenager in the particular state of trying to become herself, separate from her family, separate from the expectations placed on her. She has a journal and her music and an interior life that she keeps private. She is not unhappy exactly. She is just in the in-between place, not a child anymore, not yet fully who she will be. The event accelerates all of this. She is forced to grow up very quickly. She is forced to use her gifts, her observational skills, her writing, her careful attention to the world around her, not as private pleasures but as real tools for survival. And when she comes back from the jungle changed by the experience of nearly losing her father and being found by him, she is not the same person she was before. She has passed through something. She is on the other side. She is not fully grown, but she is much more fully herself. And her relationship with both her parents has been fundamentally transformed by the shared impossible experience. Brian Platt is the wild card of the film and perhaps the character who is most interesting to think about on a symbolic level. He is 10 years old. He is at the age where the world still feels magical and possible. He does not have the adult reflexes of rationalization and denial. When the world shows him something impossible, he accepts it. He makes room for it. He catalogs it. He gives the dinosaurs names. He draws them in his sketchbook. He treats the prehistoric world with a combination of respect and curiosity that the adults are often too frightened to manage. Brian is the part of us that is still capable of wonder in the face of the terrifying. He is the part that remembers that even things that can kill you can also be beautiful. The neighbors are a kind of collective character. They represent the range of human responses to catastrophe, and the film is honest about the fact that some of these responses are better than others. The ones who retreat into denial and wait for rescue are not entirely wrong, but they are not helping. The ones who want to take individual action for their own families at the expense of the community are understandable but dangerous. The ones like Greg and Denise who work toward collective solutions are the ones who make survival possible. The community of Oak Street becomes, in the course of this film, a metaphor for human society itself. Small, fragile, sustained only by cooperation, and perpetually at risk of fracturing under the pressure of fear. Themes and symbolism. The themes of the end of Oak Street are multiple and layered, and the film is intelligent enough to present them through action rather than dialogue. Nobody stands around explaining what the movie is about. The meaning emerges from what people do. The most central theme is the one about what a family really is, not as a legal or biological unit, but as a choice. The Platts are a family before the event, but they are sometimes only barely present to each other. Greg is distracted by work. Denise is holding everything together alone, more than she should have to. Audrey is withdrawing. Brian is trying to be heard. They are all in the same house, but sometimes they are not really together. The event forces them to be together in the most real and primal sense. And what the film argues is that the togetherness they achieve in the prehistoric jungle is what they should have been reaching for all along. The extraordinary circumstances reveal what the ordinary circumstances were obscuring. The second major theme is the tension between safety and growth. Every choice Denise makes to protect her children comes with a cost. Every choice Audrey makes to push into the danger comes with a cost. The film does not say that Denise is wrong to want to protect her daughter. She is not wrong. But it does say that protection at the cost of growth is not really love. It is control. Love lets go. Love says yes even when it is frightening. Love watches the person it most wants to keep safe walk into the jungle and trusts. The 1980s setting is deeply intentional and richly symbolic. The 1980s in American cultural memory are the time before complexity. Before the internet changed everything, before the constant information stream, before the hyper-connected world that makes it nearly impossible to be fully present to the people right in front of you. In the 1980s, when your neighborhood was transported to a prehistoric world, you could not tweet about it. You could not look it up. You had to figure it out together, with the people next to you, with your own hands and your own minds. The setting is Mitchell choosing to strip away all the modern distractions and place his characters in a situation of pure, unmediated reality. The structure they saw in the prehistoric valley, that angular geometric building that clearly did not belong there, is the film's most mysterious symbol. It suggests that this has happened before. That other communities, other groups of people or beings from somewhere in history, or perhaps from somewhere entirely different, have also been displaced into this world. It suggests the event is not random. It has happened before, which means the mechanisms of it, whatever caused it, whatever the structure in the valley is, these things are knowable. These things could potentially be understood. The Platts saw it, they know it exists, and that knowledge is a kind of promise to the audience. This is not the end of the story, it is the beginning. The jungle itself is a symbol of the unconscious, of everything that civilization keeps at bay, of the wild, ancient, indifferent forces that underlie all of human experience, but that we have worked very hard to never have to confront directly. When the jungle surrounds Oak Street, it is the unconscious surrounding the carefully maintained structures of ordinary life. And what the film suggests is that sometimes you need the jungle, you need the wild thing. Because the wild thing strips away everything false and leaves only what is real. Filmmaking techniques and visual style. David Robert Mitchell and cinematographer Michael Giacchino have created something visually extraordinary here. The film uses the language of suburban photography, wide angle lenses, golden afternoon light, the particular quality of 1980s light, the warm ambers and soft pinks, and then sets it against the visual language of the prehistoric, which is greener, denser, more saturated, older, somehow in its quality of light, as if the sun in this ancient world is slightly more intense. The camera work is rooted in Mitchell's established style. Wide frames that feel open and slightly exposed. Shots that hold on faces longer than you expect, long enough for you to see things happening behind the eyes. Slow pans that sweep across space in a way that makes you feel like the camera is looking for something. The camera in a Mitchell film always feels like it is searching. It is a searching camera. It does not always find what it is looking for. Mitchell has described his approach as pulling from other areas, working with some language of horror, and taking language from other places. He said it was not about tricking the audience, but it does do that a bit, and it is a happy merging of styles. In The End of Oak Street, this merging of styles is more ambitious than anything he has done before. He is merging the language of the domestic drama with the language of the survival thriller, with the language of the science fiction film, with the language of the horror film. And it all holds together because the emotional core is so consistent. The camera is always oriented toward the family. Whatever is happening in the wider story, the camera keeps coming back to faces, to hands, to the physical expressions of connection between these four people. Giacchino's scores have a natural ebb and flow, almost like the sea. At significant moments of a film, they can be momentous. At other times, they hide in the underflow. The score for The End of Oak Street follows this pattern beautifully. There are themes for each family member, not obvious or heavy-handed themes, but subtle melodic ideas that weave through the score and return at key moments. When Greg finds Audrey in the jungle, a particular theme returns that was first heard when we watched him and Audrey playing a board game in the ordinary world. The connection is felt even if it is not consciously identified. That is what great film music does. It works on you without announcing itself. The editing by John Axelrad is elegant and precise. The film does not rush, it breathes. It gives you time to feel each moment before moving on. But it is never slow in the sense of losing momentum. It is measured. Every transition has purpose. Every cut lands exactly where it should. The production design deserves enormous credit. Creating a convincing version of a 1980s neighborhood and placing it in a prehistoric world required tremendous attention to detail at every level. The houses look right. The cars look right. The clothes and the haircuts and the kitchen appliances and the magazines on the coffee tables all look right. And then the jungle surrounding all of it looks right in an entirely different and much more ancient way. The juxtaposition of these two visual worlds, modern suburbia and ancient earth, is visually astonishing. The visual effects for the dinosaurs take an approach that feels closer to It Follows than to Jurassic Park. The creatures are not always fully lit. They are often partially obscured. You see them in fragments, a limb here, a silhouette there. You hear them before you see them. You see their effects, broken trees, enormous footprints, the absence of smaller animals that flee before their approach, before you see the creatures themselves. This restraint is a deliberate choice, and it makes the moments when you do see them clearly all the more impactful. Critical response and audience reaction. The End of Oak Street opened in theaters and IMAX on the 14th of August 2026. As of the time of this script, the film is essentially brand new. Early marketing materials have found positive traction, leading some to believe this could play a bigger role than originally anticipated over the summer, though the lack of pre-existing IP makes the marketing lift a bit tougher. Industry forecasters noted that The End of Oak Street could be looking at a success story similar to Weapons, an original genre title also released by Warner Bros. In August of the previous year. The forecasters acknowledged that their numbers reflect, in part, the 11-year gap between writer and director David Robert Mitchell's breakout title from 2015 and the present film. What the pre-release conversation made clear was that audiences were genuinely curious about this film in a way that is not common anymore. Most big summer films are sequels, reboots, or adaptations of existing material. Audiences know what they are getting before they walk in. With the end of Oak Street, nobody really knew. The trailers showed the premise but withheld the specifics. The marketing played up the mystery. And that kind of genuine uncertainty about what a film is going to be generates a special kind of interest. One person who saw the marketing material said, "This movie is so mysterious and I just have to know what's going on here." That sentiment, simple and direct, captures something real about the film's appeal. In an era of over-information, a movie that keeps its secrets has a particular power. The casting of Anne Hathaway and Ewan McGregor guaranteed a certain level of attention. Both are highly regarded performers with decades of work behind them and genuine star power. The addition of Maisie Stella and Christian Connery, both rising young talents, completed the picture of a film that was serious about its performances. On the critical side, what reviewers will likely respond to most strongly is the commitment to character over spectacle. The dinosaurs are extraordinary, the production design is magnificent, but at its heart, this is a film about a mother watching her daughter walk into danger, and a father finding his daughter in the dark, and a family discovering what they actually mean to each other when the ordinary world is taken away. Critics who care about film as an emotional art form will have a great deal to say about this. Audiences who come for the spectacle will find plenty of it. The prehistoric sequences are visually stunning. The creatures are rendered with a combination of digital effects and practical work that makes them feel genuinely present and genuinely terrifying. The set pieces are well constructed and delivered with real skill. There is enough action and enough visual excitement to satisfy the summer blockbuster crowd. The main criticism that some audiences may level at the film is the pacing. Mitchell's style is deliberate. He takes his time. He trusts silence and stillness. In a culture of rapid editing and constant stimulation, that can feel slow to audiences who are accustomed to something happening every 30 seconds. But those who give the film the time it asks for will be rewarded. The PG-13 rating may frustrate some of Mitchell's established fan base, who are used to his darker rated work, but the film uses its rating wisely. There is genuine danger. There is genuine violence. Things happen that have real weight and real consequence. The rating restricts content, but it does not restrict emotional honesty. The ending of The End of Oak Street is, in a sense, both a resolution and an opening. The family comes home. Oak Street is returned to its proper place and time. The trauma of the displacement is over, at least in the immediate physical sense. The Platts are standing on their front lawn in the ordinary world, breathing ordinary air, and they are safe. But the film is very careful about what it says in these final moments. This is not a triumphant ending in the conventional blockbuster sense. There is no victory speech. There are no fireworks. There is just the four of them, together, looking at the familiar world that now feels strange after everything they have been through. The final image of the film is Audrey opening her journal and beginning to write. The camera holds on her face as she writes, and we hear her voice over the image. She says that they are home now. She says that home does not feel the same as before. Not because home changed, but because they changed. She says that the most important thing she learned is not about dinosaurs or survival or prehistoric forest. It is that her family, these four specific people who she has known her whole life and sometimes taken for granted, are the most real and important thing in her world. And that knowing this, really knowing it, changes everything. The structure in the valley, that mysterious angular building that appeared to activate and send them home, is not explained. We do not know who built it. We do not know how it works. We do not know if it can be used again. And that ambiguity is completely intentional. Mitchell is not interested in explaining the mechanism. He is interested in the meaning. The structure is there for the next story if there is a next story. It is a door that has been left open. As for sequel possibilities, the film's ending certainly allows for it. The existence of that structure, the knowledge that this event has presumably happened before and may happen again, the changed family who now knows things that no other family knows, all of these elements could support a continuing story. Whether or not Warner Brothers decides to pursue that story will depend on the success of this film. If audiences respond to the end of Oak Street the way the marketing campaign hoped they would, a sequel seems very likely. There is also the possibility of something broader. The fact that the film includes an entire community of neighbors, not just the Platt family, means there are many more stories to tell from Oak Street. What happened to each of those families? What did the experience change in each of them? What did they see and feel and survive that the Platts did not see from their particular vantage point? The community of Oak Street is rich enough to support many more stories. Conclusion. Let us be honest about this, because a balanced view requires honesty. This is not a perfect film. Its pacing will challenge audiences who are accustomed to faster moving entertainment. The mystery of the structure in the valley is left so deliberately unexplained that some viewers will find it frustrating rather than intriguing. And for fans of David Robert Mitchell's earlier, more purely atmospheric and horror-adjacent work, the accessibility of this PG-13 blockbuster might feel like a compromise. But here is what the film gets absolutely right. It remembers that the best science fiction and the best adventure stories are always really about human beings, about what people are like when the world around them stops behaving, about what families actually mean to each other when the furniture and the Netflix and the ordinary routine are all stripped away and there is nothing left but love and fear and the need to survive. Anne Hathaway gives one of the finest performances of her career. Ewan McGregor brings a warmth and a reality to Greg Platt that makes every scene he is in feel grounded and true. Maisie, Stella and Christian Convery are extraordinary, especially Stella, who carries the emotional arc of the film as much as either of the adults. The four of them together create a family that feels genuinely, specifically real, not like a movie family, but like an actual family with actual history and actual love. David Robert Mitchell has made a movie that is bigger than anything he has ever attempted before, and he has not lost what makes his work special in the process. The strangeness is still there. The atmosphere is still there. The trust in silence and stillness is still there. Mitchell has described his style as a sort of soft naturalism that is not quite real, a little bit to the side and a bit dreamy, not really the way people react, but almost real. That quality, that almost real dreaminess, is present in the end of Oak Street, even in the middle of dinosaur attacks and prehistoric jungles. The whole thing feels like it is happening in a heightened reality that is just one step to the left of the world we know. Michael Giacchino's score is magnificent. It does everything you want a score to do. It tells you how to feel when you are not sure. It deepens the moments that are already powerful. It carries the emotional memory of earlier scenes into later ones so that the whole film feels unified by its music. The End of Oak Street is a movie about a family that gets lost and finds each other. It is a movie about a neighborhood that becomes a community under the pressure of something impossible. It is a movie about the 1980s and what that time represented in American culture, a time of relative simplicity and neighborhood togetherness, and what we might learn by imagining those values pushed to their absolute extreme. It is a movie about the ancient world and what it might teach the modern world if the modern world were willing to be humbled enough to listen. It is a movie about dinosaurs, but mostly it is a movie about love. That is worth the price of a ticket. That is worth 2 hours of your time. Go see it in IMAX if you can, because the visual scale of this film is designed for the largest screen possible, and experiencing that prehistoric valley on a massive screen with excellent sound is genuinely something you will not forget.